Hey, it's Mr. Engstrom. Let's take a look at 6 trigonometric ratios. We're going to be looking at right triangles, specifically the acute angles of a right triangle. The sine of an acute angle of a right triangle is defined as the opposite leg over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent leg over hypotenuse. And the tangent is opposite leg over adjacent leg. Usually we abbreviate and we use the first 3 letters. So when we put this, we're not talking about the word sin, that's short for sine, and then cosine and tangent. Now we got 3 new ones. These are the reciprocal trigonometric ratios. In other words, we're going to flip them. Okay, so cosecant is hypotenuse over the opposite leg. So if you look at sine, we see that those two are reciprocals. So the cosecant is really the reciprocal of sine, which we could write as 1 over sine. And we have an abbreviation from that, but we can't abbreviate COS because that's already used. So to abbreviate cosecant, we use CSC. Secant, that's going to be the reciprocal of cosine. So if the cosine is adjacent leg over hypotenuse, secant is hypotenuse over adjacent leg. And boom, hypotenuse over adjacent leg. And is the reciprocal of cosine. And here's how we abbreviate. SEC. So you got a little memorizing to do. Secant is hypotenuse over adjacent leg. Cotangent, pretty easy to remember that one. That one's going to be the reciprocal of tangent. Tangent is opposite leg over adjacent leg. Cotangent's going to be adjacent leg over opposite leg. And that's 1 over tangent, the reciprocal of tangent. And we abbreviate with COT. Might want to pause the video to get all that copied down in your notes. Alright, let's take a look at this right triangle here. If we're looking at this angle, remember we're looking at the acute angles one at a time. And remember, opposite means across from, so this would be the opposite leg, the leg opposite the angle we're looking at. Adjacent is the math word for right next to, so the leg that is right next to the angle we're looking at is this one right here. And so that is the adjacent leg. That's the adjacent leg. Why is this one capitalized? Who knows? And then, of course, this other one is the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. That's the one always across from the right angle there. Always across from the right angle. That's the hypotenuse. Looking at an example, sine A. So we're looking at this angle here, angle A. That's that angle right there. Okay, so sine is the opposite leg over the adjacent leg. So that's going to be A over B. Cosine of angle A is the adjacent leg over the hypotenuse, and the tangent of angle A is the opposite leg A over, over the B. I kind of move things around. Oh well, let's take a look at the secant of angle A. Alright, that looks a little better here. So let's take a look at the cosecant of angle A. Cosecant is reciprocal of sine, so that's something you have to memorize. So the sine is A over C, so the cosecant is C over A. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine, so that's C over B. Remember, reciprocal just means you flip the fraction. Cotangent is B over A, because tangent was A over B. Okay, so here we have an example with some numbers. Okay, so you got some memorizing to do. Then you have to know how to simplify. So we're going to find all 6 of our trigonometric ratios here, all 6. Okay, now let's start with the sine. We're going to find the sine of that angle theta. That's a theta right there. So sine is opposite leg over hypotenuse. There's a couple things that we need to do here. We need to simplify the 24 and the 12, but also the square root of 5. It's easier if you deal with this first. The 24 divided by 12. Of course, that's 2. So 12 goes into 12 once, it goes into there twice. So now we have 2 over the square root of 5. But since we can't have a radical in the denominator, we need to rationalize the denominator. We multiply by 1, really. So you're multiplying by the square root of 5 on top and bottom. So you're multiplying by 1, so you're not changing the value, you're just changing the way that looks. And we got 2 root 5 over square root of 5 times the square root of 5. That's, of course, the square root of 25, which is 5. Square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. Boom! There's the sine. Now, we already did a bunch of work for the sine. We could just take this 5 over 2 root 5 for the cosecant, but I like to back up a little bit. And for the cosecant of theta, start off with 12 root 5 over 24. We just got a whole lot less work to do there. And so we would do our simplifying, and we get square root of 5 over 2. There's the sine and the cosecant. Let's find the cosine and the secant of theta. So the cosine is the adjacent leg, that's 12, over the hypotenuse, which is 12 root 5. Right? Again, we have some simplifying to do. Here's one way we can do that. We can go 1, 1, and then make sure you don't magically just bring that square root of 5 up to the top. It's still down here, which is what we got to fix now. And so we multiply by root 5 on top and bottom, and we get square root of 5 over, and of course square root of 5 times square root of 5 is 5. Boom! Now secant. Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. So cosine was the adjacent leg over hypotenuse. Secant, the reciprocal, flip that, it's 12 root 5 over 12, which is of course the square root of 5. Now let's find the tangent and the cotangent. Okay, so here's the angle we're looking at, theta. Okay, and so the opposite leg, remember the tangent is opposite leg over adjacent leg. The leg opposite the angle over the leg right next to the angle. Okay. Now we're talking about the adjacent leg. You got to be a little careful with that because the hypotenuse is actually adjacent to theta as well. So when we say adjacent, we're talking about the adjacent leg. So it's the opposite leg, 24 over the adjacent leg, 12. 24 divided by 12, 2. Well, if the tangent is 2, then the cotangent is the reciprocal of 2, 1/2. Alrighty, hang in there. Watch it again if you need to. If that was too fast, we've got a homework assignment to do. Got 10 problems on the back of your notes, and I will see you tomorrow.